Like I always would feel defeated after a test because I was like, that's my identity. You know, I'd look at that F, that big old F on my paper, and I would see that and be like, that's who I am. My name is Josh Brandon. Hear my story. When I was a kid, I went with my family to Yellowstone, and I loved animals. So we'd be driving along and we'd see this huge moose on the right side of our car, and I'd be like, dude, that is amazing. And I was the only boy out of 3 sisters, so I felt like, you know, I kind of had to impress them, you know? So I just kind of go all at it, you know? I just like, this 7-year-old Josh climbing up this mountain next to his big old dad. You know, my dad was a pretty big guy. And I'd just be exhausted, man. I'd be crying because I was like, what have I done to myself? So even though like me and my family were like really tight, I felt like I was different. You know, we'd have all these awesome vacations. But then I would be at school and, you know, my family wasn't there. It was me and my big old class of 20 students and my teacher. And I felt like I just couldn't focus. You know, the teacher would be speaking and I couldn't process what she was saying. It would take me longer. And I just felt like I was different from the other kids. But when the teacher would like write something on the board, I'd be like, dang, like I got that, like boom, right away. Like that makes sense to me. But then we would go, and then pretty soon I was like put in like a smaller class. I think it was like a special needs class. But at the time I didn't know that. And it was like me and 3 students, and I just felt weird. You know, I just kind of felt like, man, I don't feel like I'm different, but I feel like people think I'm different. So I'm sitting in the doctor's office, my mom's sitting next to me, and the doctor is looking at me and asking me a bunch of questions that are pretty weird questions. I'm like, what is this about? You know, I feel kind of weird. I have no idea who the heck you are. And they're just like, okay, you're diagnosed with auditory processing disorder. And that was it. You know, and they started telling me like, this is what it is, this is what it's to be expected. And it almost felt like they were kind of telling me like, this is kind of who you are. And I was like, man, I don't feel like that is who I am. I feel like there's way more to me than this disorder. And I felt like I was learning through like books. I felt like, man, I'm getting this. As high school came, like I started feeling more dumb. Especially because I went to a really religious school. I felt like I was more looked down upon, and I was like, who am I? Like, what is going on? And it was so frustrating. And there's this guy that was sitting next to me, he was a new student, and just throughout the day, like he started calling me pathetic and just started calling me a loser. And, you know, I would take a test and I'd fail. And then what he said is like, that really like, that hit me, because I was like, man, I am pretty pathetic. You know, I am kind of a loser. And dude, that would just bring me down. Like I always would feel defeated after a test because I was like, that's my identity. You know, I'd look at that F, that big old F on my paper, and I would see that and be like, that's who I am. It was just so hard for me. You know, I graduated my senior year, not even like, they just let me pass, even though I really shouldn't have. For some reason, that even hurt me a lot too, because it's like, I didn't really work for it then. You know, I was graduating knowing that I didn't really succeed. After high school, I learned a lot more about myself by going through a discipleship school for 8 months. My life started to change from always feeling defeated, knowing that because I am loved by Jesus, because he is with me, I am victorious. And that every time I wake up, I know that Jesus is with me. And my focus isn't on what man thinks about me or even my success. And I think that was a big part of, like, even as a kid, I felt like I had to succeed. I had to be the best of the best. And with this disorder, I felt like I was so frustrated because I didn't know what it was, but it was like blocking me. And I thought that was what it was. But when I started to grow in my relationship with Jesus, I realized, no, that's not actually what it was. It was this image of myself and what others thought about me. And it changed from that into what God thought about me. And it really, the verse, 1 John chapter 3, verse 1, how great is the love the Lord God has lavished on us, that we are called children of God. And that is who we are. And man, that verse just spoke powerfully to my life, knowing that I am a child of the Most High God. And that's where I belong. If you're a kid out there and you've really struggled with learning and feeling defeated, I'm gonna tell you right now that don't listen to defeat. Don't listen to what others like bullies tell you, I want to tell you right now that you need to listen to what Jesus says about you. And that's that he loves you, that he has a place for you, and that you belong to him. It's been so hard for me, man. But I've known through it all that Jesus is with me, that he is my best friend. That I can wake up every morning going to school knowing that Jesus is with me, that I am victorious, and then I can walk victoriously.